think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me? Um,
No questions?
why would you think that I would say Floyd?
That there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd. I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late.
Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years, but no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fight.
Terence Crawford responded confidently to Floyd Mayweather's claim that he could beat him. Crawford stated that he would defeat Mayweather even in his prime and emphasized that history will remember him for taking on every challenge. He stressed that no one can accuse him of ducking opponents, since he has always fought whoever stepped up. Crawford hinted he would not avoid Mayweather either, if the fight were ever made possible.
And he started going like this, and then that's when Floyd started taking over.
What do you want your legacy to be like when your career is all said and done? What do you want people to remember you for?
Oh man, everybody's asking me the question. I always be like, man, it's whatever it's their opinion. Everybody gonna have a different opinion of Terence Crawford, but one thing they can't say is that I ducked anyone. I fought everyone that was available to fight.
Dan Raphael has argued that Terence Crawford has reached a point in his career where fighting again is not even a requirement to cement his legacy. He points out that Crawford's accomplishments are already unmatched, as he has cleaned out divisions, unified titles, and dominated elite opponents without showing any sign of weakness. Raphael stresses that when a fighter reaches this stage, it is no longer about proving himself, but rather about protecting his legacy and enjoying the recognition he deserves. For him, Crawford's resume has already surpassed the expectations many had for him, and continuing to chase unnecessary fights would not add much to his place in history. Instead, his dominance in the ring, especially in recent years, is enough to keep him remembered as one of the greats.
What does a Terence Crawford do now? Like, what's the next thing that he does? Because you look around and go, is the only way that he really gets that, maybe that ultimate chance, if he goes up again? And do you say, what do you do?
I don't quit. Yeah, I mean, he was asked those questions at the press conference. He made two things clear. One, he's not going back to 154, and I say that because some people suggested about possibly pursuing a fight with Ennis, who has his debut in the weight class coming up.
Yeah.
That's probably unlikely. He's not going to go back down in weight. And I mean, no disrespect to Ennis, but Ennis is a guy that's known within the diehards of boxing. He's not in any way known beyond the boundaries of the hardcore boxing fan. So yeah. I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of different reasons for him. Not to say I wouldn't, as a boxing fan, enjoy watching the fight. So, yeah. But I don't think he's going back to 154. He was asked about like a Benavides at 175, and he acknowledged like that guy's really big. I mean, that's maybe a bridge too far. He already went up to 2 weight classes to fight Canelo at 68. So it feels to me like he can either stay at 168 and defend this championship and look to the same types of names that were being thrown around as the types of guys that would have been in the mix for Canelo had he won the fight. And, he's going to have mandatories. Obviously, that's the first thing they'll have to look at. I mean, I don't know if he's not going to necessarily keep the belts if he's forced into a mandatory. He doesn't need the belts at this point, but there might be something appealing to him. For example, and Billy had a great fight on the undercard, although he's been ordered to fight a rematch in that fight. Mm-hmm. That was, like fight of the year against Lester Martinez, candidate for fight of the year.
The emphatic manner in which Terence Crawford dismantled Canelo Alvarez has led to a heated debate among boxing circles. Fans and analysts quickly began comparing his victory to Floyd Mayweather's own win over Canelo. While Mayweather's triumph came when Canelo was younger and less experienced, Crawford's dominance against a more seasoned version of the Mexican star has made some wonder if Crawford should be seen as superior. However, Luke Thomas has reminded fans that Crawford's career blossomed much later compared to Floyd's. Mayweather had already established himself as a superstar at a younger age and was fighting high-level opponents early in his career. Crawford, on the other hand, faced delays in receiving the spotlight due to a lack of promotion and recognition, which means his prime moments are arriving later. For this reason, Thomas argues that even if Crawford's victory over Canelo was more impressive in execution, it does not automatically place him above Floyd historically, since timing and career trajectory matter when making such comparisons.
This was a masterclass. One guy with outrageous skill offensively and defensively, simply making another very good fighter look lesser than. This was the other part. The people who watch MMA and then try to watch boxing through an MMA lens, I don't know what to tell you. You're actually missing the point. The kind of specific details and the depth of the technical ability far surpasses even what you can get at the highest level of MMA because they don't have that level of skill. There is no equivalent in MMA to Bud Crawford because there cannot be. Bud is the most talented boxer I've seen since Mayweather.
I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
To be fair to Floyd, he obviously had hand problems in his whole welterweight run, and it's why he took that long stretch off in 2007, 2008, 2009 area, and Floyd's brilliance to be able to be just as great in some ways at that age. We're not here trying to dunk on Floyd. When you get a victory like this, right now, straight up, Luke, you could say that there's not a welterweight, junior middleweight, or maybe even super middleweight. When you could say over like a 4-division stretch, Bud, cut down to any of these weights, that there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now, that's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd, I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late. I find Bud to be as defensively sound as I've ever seen a fighter. He can find you. There's nowhere to hide with him.
Like Floyd, he has such control over the terms in there. It's just insane.
Buddy McGirt was among the most vocal supporters of Crawford after the Canelo fight, describing performance as one of complete domination. According to McGirt, Crawford controlled the fight from the very beginning, never allowing Canelo to dictate the pace or impose his usual aggressive style. He emphasized that Crawford's victory was so clear that there is no need for a rematch, as the gap in skill and execution was obvious for everyone watching. McGirt also stressed that Crawford has finally secured the legacy he has been chasing for years by decisively beating a fighter of Canelo's stature. Crawford's career now holds a signature win that validates his greatness in the eyes of fans and historians alike. For McGirt, there is nothing left to prove. Crawford has written his chapter, and the domination over Canelo stands as a testament to his place among boxing legends.
Yes.
Like, what fight were they watching?
Right.
I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I don't know what some of these guys be doing in this game, man. Some people, in situations like that, they should ask them, listen, just turn in your license, bro. Because there's no way in hell the fight was that close.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. It's just, it's not fair. It's not fair. You get a guy like Terence got here and dominate from beginning to end, and then you find out he needed the last 2 rounds to win. That's scary, man.
It is. And you see how you just mentioned scary. Now, a lot of people are saying, buddy, that type of beating, he's not going to want a rematch. But looking at those gold cards and knowing that, hey, you wasn't too far behind, even though, he did mention that, he's better than Mayweather. But I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like that was such a beating that Canelo wouldn't want a rematch?
No, I think that, in all honesty, personally, I think that Canelo's at that stage in his career right now, that it's a rematch he don't need. He don't need it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? What we saw that night, that's the stage Canelo's at right now. I mean, he's fought everybody, he's did everything, but you know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He lost it to Terence fair and square, and he passed the torch. So if you're gonna have another fight, cool, but you don't need to. You have nothing. He has nothing to prove. He fought Terence and nobody else would.
When comparing Terence Crawford to Floyd Mayweather, analysts often highlight the mental side of Floyd's game as a deciding factor that keeps him a step ahead. Many acknowledge that Crawford is technically brilliant, able to switch stances, adjust mid-fight, and dismantle opponents with ease. However, they argue that Mayweather possessed an extra layer of psychological control that made him even more dangerous. Floyd not only fought physically, but also manipulated the minds of his opponents, forcing them to make mistakes and abandon their strategies. This ability to dominate before and during the fight is seen as the key difference between the two. Crawford's skill set is undeniable, But the aura of control and psychological warfare that Floyd brought into every bout is what elevates him in the eyes of many boxing historians. The comparison illustrates how close Crawford is to being ranked alongside Floyd, but also how the mental dimension of Floyd's style remains unique.
Hagler, Hearns. I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Like I've seen all of those things, and those fights were wars. Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer I've ever seen. He's the most skilled boxer I've ever seen. Bud, and this is just my opinion, is the baddest man I've seen wear boxing gloves. And here's why I say that.
RC.
Here's why I say that. Bud is extremely skilled, right? Yet not as skilled as Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made people look foolish, right? And so if I had to say who's the greatest I've seen, and Bud said it, right? The best of an era and the best of an era, it's Floyd. But when I watched Bud against Canelo, there was this extreme skill on display, and there was a level of crazy that's different. There was a level of, and Floyd's extremely tough. Go back to Shane Mosley and the 2 punches he landed early in the fight and the way that he embarrassed him. I'm not saying that Floyd's not tough. Floyd's not a bad man. But there was domination inside that ring we saw this weekend. Yeah. And there's no fear in him in the way that he's attacked gaining notoriety. Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years. But no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fights and the better fights. And he was Errol Spence.
For over a decade, Terence Crawford has been showcasing his skills. But his low-key personality and lack of flamboyance meant that many in the boxing world overlooked him. Unlike fighters who rely on loud self-promotion and theatrics, Crawford preferred to let his performances speak for themselves inside the ring. While this approach won him respect from purists, it cost him mainstream recognition during his earlier years. It is only now, with massive fights against Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez, that the broader public is beginning to appreciate his greatness. However, critics argue that this recognition has come too late, as Crawford is already deep into his career and closer to the end than the beginning. While he may continue to add to his achievements, the window for building a long-lasting mainstream legacy is shrinking, leaving some to wonder how differently his career might have been perceived had he been given the spotlight much earlier.
That's how great he was. Canelo cemented him on what is the two-headed monster that marks the greatest of the 2000s. Floyd Mayweather is on that, and Bud Crawford is right next to him. I don't think we have to pick on who's better. I think they both dominated their eras equally.
Floyd Mayweather has long been criticized for his unwillingness to acknowledge other great fighters, often refusing to admit that Muhammad Ali, widely considered the greatest of all time, ranks above him. Now, with Terence Crawford achieving feats that place him on similar ground, questions about Floyd's ego have resurfaced. Crawford's decisive victory over Canelo has sparked discussions that threaten to elevate him into the same historical conversations as Floyd. For someone as protective of his legacy as Mayweather, this development is difficult to accept. Critics argue that Floyd thrives on being recognized as the one and only benchmark of boxing excellence. And when another fighter begins to share that space, it bruises his pride. This perception of jealousy makes it seem as though Floyd cannot bear the idea of anyone being celebrated on his level, creating tension around how he publicly responds to Crawford's rise.
Puts him on par with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you know Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't like that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the biggest egos in the sport, so much so that he could not find a way to give Muhammad Ali credit as being a top 5 fighter and claimed that Roberto Duran sits above Muhammad Ali, right? Why? Because Floyd wants to be better than Muhammad Ali. He completely redid his image when he became Money Mayweather to pretty much copy from calling himself the GOAT, calling himself TBE, right? Whole thing. Very disrespectful of Muhammad Ali when he was coming up, when after Floyd Mayweather Jr. wound up being at the top of the sport. So now that Terence Crawford has firmly placed himself at the top of boxing, and not just as the pound for pound fighter right now, many people are saying, hey, shouldn't he be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time? Isn't this a realistic conversation we can have? So what does that do? That butts Terence Crawford right up against Floyd Mayweather. So when Floyd was asked a series of questions, right, because Floyd has a fight coming up, I do believe it maybe in January. I think it may be in January or early 2026, I believe is the time frame, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting Mike Tyson in I believe this is going to be an exhibition.